Imagine a universe full of worlds that look promising at first glance, but are actually minefields ready to destroy any unsuspecting visitor. What would you do if you knew some planets don't just lack life but present threats as strange as they are deadly? It's curious to think that, even with all humanity's technology and progress, we face cosmic mysteries that challenge our understanding. Planets where pressure, radiation, toxic gases, and acid rain are just the beginning of a terrifying list of dangers. These historical facts from space exploration show us that the search for other worlds is not just an adventure, but a survival game against forces that seem straight out of science fiction. Get ready to discover the 10 worst planets to be without protection. A journey full of curiosities and interesting facts that will change the way you look at the cosmos. At first glance, Kepler-22b might look like the perfect getaway for any space traveler. It's located over 600 light-years from Earth, floating calmly in what scientists call the habitable zone. That sweet spot around a star where temperatures could allow water to exist in liquid form. Sounds promising, doesn't it? But here's where things get curious. While its location might seem ideal, stepping foot on this planet without protection would be like jumping headfirst into a slow-motion death trap. And the first culprit: oxygen. Yes, the very thing we breathe to stay alive becomes your worst enemy here. That's because Kepler-22b likely has a much higher concentration of oxygen in its atmosphere than Earth does. So high that it would cause what scientists call hyperoxia, a state where your body absorbs too much oxygen too quickly. It's one of those interesting facts that feels almost ironic. Too much of a good thing can, quite literally, kill you. Your cells start to break down, your brain struggles to function, and your heart can enter failure mode. All within minutes. And that's before you even start to worry about the rest. Now let's add another layer of horror to this puzzle. Pressure. Kepler-22b is a super-Earth, about twice the size of our planet. And with that size comes gravity and atmospheric pressure that would crush a human body like a soda can. Just imagine. You step outside your spacecraft, and within seconds, your bones begin to compress, your lungs collapse, and your blood vessels rupture from the inside. There's a mystery here that fascinates scientists. How can a planet that appears to offer life-sustaining ingredients also be so completely deadly? It's like a cosmic prank. And even if you were inside a state-of-the-art spacesuit, the pressure might still push the limits of technology. It's not just uncomfortable, it's lethal. In fact, to survive there, you'd need a suit stronger than anything we've built so far. And oxygen overload plus high pressure. That's a double knockout. Your body wouldn't stand a chance. You wouldn't even have time to scream. It's a curiosity of the universe. How something that looks livable can, at the same time, be unlivable in every way. And then, there's the weather. If you thought Earth's storms were intense, wait until you hear about Kepler-22b's. The atmosphere isn't just full of oxygen, it's also packed with dangerous compounds like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon dioxide. These gases mix to form acid rain so corrosive that it could eat through metal. We're talking about a rain so powerful that it wouldn't just ruin your space helmet. It would melt it. It would melt you. And what triggers these terrifying downpours? Massive chemical storms caused by volcanic activity, atmospheric heating, and even planetary electrical discharges. In other words, this planet isn't just dangerous because of what it has. It's dangerous because of what it does. Lightning bolts flash across the sky with explosive energy, striking the ground and anything on it, with a force that's hard to even imagine. Some scientists believe these bolts could carry hundreds of times more energy than the ones we see during thunderstorms on Earth. Now here's an interesting fact. Even the best insulation technology on Earth wouldn't be able to withstand one direct strike. You'd be gone in a flash. Literally. But let's say, just for fun, that you managed to avoid the lightning, the acid rain, and the pressure. What's left? More bad news. The planet's gravity is likely so strong that just walking would feel like dragging a mountain behind you. Each step would take immense effort, and your muscles would quickly give out. Your bones would strain. Your heart would race. The sheer weight pressing down on your body would slowly crush your ability to function. And that's assuming you were even conscious, because with all the other factors at play, you'd likely be unconscious within moments of landing. Kepler 22b is the kind of place that tests every limit of human survival. It's a historical fact that we've always dreamed of reaching other worlds. But this one shows us how far we are from truly understanding what habitable means. A planet being in the right spot doesn't make it friendly. Sometimes it makes it even more dangerous. The cruel trick here is that Kepler 22b seems like it should work, but it doesn't. It's like a mirage in the desert, beautiful from afar, deadly up close. And here's the kicker. Scientists still list Kepler 22b on catalogs of potentially habitable exoplanets. That's the curious part. It's technically in the Goldilocks zone, the place where temperatures aren't too hot or too cold. But those classifications don't consider deadly oxygen levels, unlivable pressures, or chemical weapon level rain. It raises an interesting question. How many other planets are we calling habitable, just because we don't know any better yet? It's a powerful reminder that the universe doesn't play by our rules. We tend to imagine alien worlds as either frozen wastelands or burning infernos, but sometimes the real danger comes from the ones that look the most like home, until you get too close. Kepler 22b is like a cosmic bait and switch. It promises comfort but delivers chaos. And just when you think it can't get worse, the skies themselves seem to open up in a storm of acid and fire. But here's the thing. As deadly as it is, this planet isn't the most dangerous one out there. No. There's another one not far off in the galactic neighborhood, where the danger doesn't fall from the sky. It rains from space. If you think danger means a bad neighborhood or an active volcano, you haven't heard of TRAPPIST 1D. This planet lives in a system that feels like a cosmic traffic jam. 7 rocky worlds packed closely together, orbiting one tiny, restless star. They're so near to each other that if you stood on the surface of TRAPPIST 1D, you might look up and actually see other planets in the sky, bigger than our moon looks from Earth. Sounds magical, right? But here's a curious fact. All that beauty hides something brutal. Because these planets are packed in so tightly, they pull on each other constantly, like siblings fighting over space in a crowded room. And when a stray asteroid wanders into this cosmic mess, gets ripped apart by gravity, and guess where the pieces fall? You got it, straight onto TRAPPIST 1D. Now this isn't your average shooting star show. On TRAPPIST 1D, meteor showers happen almost every day, and they aren't made of sparkly bits of ice and dust. These are huge, flaming space rocks crashing down at thousands of kilometers per hour. They smash into the surface, throwing up fire, dust, and destruction. It's like being trapped under a never-ending artillery barrage. Only the enemy is space itself. And here's an interesting fact. The ground on this planet is probably covered in overlapping craters, one on top of the other. No smooth surfaces. No peaceful spots, just endless scars. Even if humans built a base underground, those constant impacts could shake it apart or collapse it. It's a place where the sky is your worst enemy. You can't look up for inspiration here, only for your next problem. But let's say, just for fun, you manage to survive the meteor showers. You hide underground, reinforced your walls, and waited out the worst of it. Congratulations. But now you've got to face the second killer, the star itself. TRAPPIST 1D orbits so close to its sun, a red dwarf, that it's blasted by stellar winds day and night. These aren't soft breezes. These winds are made of charged particles, tiny bullets of radiation, traveling at insane speeds like a blowtorch from outer space. Over time, those winds rip away the atmosphere, layer by layer, leaving behind a thin, fragile shell of air, or maybe no atmosphere at all. And without a good atmosphere, radiation from the star gets through easily. Imagine standing under a heat lamp, but instead of warmth, you're getting cooked by radiation that can scramble your DNA. A single flare from this star could deliver a deadly dose in seconds. That's the scary thing about red dwarfs. Even though they're small, they're angry. They produce solar flares 100 times stronger than our suns. And they do it often. It's like living next to a firecracker that explodes without warning. 1 second you're fine, the next, poof, you're a pile of atoms. Now, here's a mystery that keeps scientists scratching their heads. Why do we keep finding planets in the habitable zone of stars that are this dangerous? It's a curious contradiction. The planet's in the right spot for water to exist, but the environment is so violent that water wouldn't last long. Neither would people. But that's not all. There's another twist. TRAPPIST-1d is tidally locked, which means it always shows the same face to its star. One side gets endless sunlight, the other side lives in eternal darkness. There's no sunrise or sunset, just one half burning under the star's fire, and the other freezing in the shadows. The hot side is so intense that metal could melt on the surface. The cold side, colder than Antarctica. Your suit would freeze, your blood would ice over, and your lungs would stop working almost instantly. So maybe you think, okay, I'll live in the middle. That border between light and dark, called the Terminator line, seems like the perfect compromise, right? In theory, yes. But here's another interesting fact. The extreme temperature difference between both sides causes massive winds to sweep across the planet. The hot air from the day side rushes toward the cold side, trying to even things out. But in the process, it creates storms that can reach hundreds of kilometers per hour. Now imagine standing in a wind that powerful, on a planet with almost no atmosphere to protect you. The air wouldn't just knock you over. It could strip the paint off your ship, erode metal, and even tear loose rocks from the ground. Some scientists believe these winds could sandblast buildings to rubble in a matter of months or even days. A historical fact from Earth. During the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, wind erosion turned entire farms to wastelands. Now multiply that by 10 or maybe 100. That's TRAPPIST-1d. So far, we've got daily meteor impacts, deadly radiation, violent global winds, no safe side, and possibly no breathable air. And yet, believe it or not, TRAPPIST-1d is still listed as a potentially habitable planet in several catalogs. That's one of the biggest curiosities of all. It shows how much we still don't understand about alien worlds. Scientists look at distance from the star, estimate a surface temperature, and say, sure, this could work. But they don't always know about the weather, the radiation, or the surface conditions. It's like seeing a house on a map and thinking, great location, without realizing it's on fire, next to a volcano in the middle of a war zone. Now, you might be wondering, is there any way life could survive on TRAPPIST-1d? Could something be living in those shadows, hiding from the flares, feeding off the minerals in the rocks? We don't know. That's part of the mystery. We've seen strange life forms on Earth that live in the most hostile places. At the bottom of oceans, inside rocks, around volcanoes. So maybe something could live there. But humans? No chance. At least, not without serious protection. And even then, it would be like playing a game of survival on expert mode, with all the cheat codes turned off. One mistake, one solar flare, one wrong step, and it's over. Still, TRAPPIST-1d remains one of the most talked about exoplanets. Captures imaginations because it feels almost reachable. It's not that far from us in cosmic terms. The system is only about 40 light-years away, practically next door by space standards. that makes people dream. What if we could go there? What if we could survive? What if, hidden in all that chaos, there's something incredible waiting to be found? These kinds of questions are what drive science forward. And even though TRAPPIST-1D looks like a death trap, it reminds us of how little we still know. It's a reminder that the most dangerous places in the universe aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they just look quiet, until the meteors start falling, the sky turns red, and the wind begins to scream. But hey, if you think TRAPPIST-1D is bad, just wait until we visit a planet that looks peaceful, green, maybe even welcoming, but hides something even worse. A poison you can't see, and acid falling from the sky. At first glance, Kepler-186f feels like a dream come true. It's a rocky planet that orbits its star inside the habitable zone, which means the temperature might be just right for liquid water. It has the same kind of mass and size as Earth. In fact, many scientists have called it Earth's cousin. If you were flying toward it, the view from orbit might take your breath away. You'd see greenish tones across the surface, cloud formations that move gently, and a soft golden glow from its red dwarf star. It might even look like a perfect place to live. But here's a curious twist. What seems like paradise from space quickly turns into a nightmare the moment you breathe in. Kepler-186f may have something Earth doesn't, a planet-wide ecosystem of alien spores. And those spores, they could be toxic, invisible to the eye, and absolutely deadly. Imagine this. You land, open your visor for a second, maybe just to taste the air, curious about how Earth-like it feels, and that's it. The spores enter your lungs. They're not like pollen or dust. These are microscopic life forms that may have evolved on this planet over millions of years, in an environment completely separate from anything humans understand. For them, the air is safe. For you, it's a chemical weapon. One interesting fact about life here on Earth is that spores and molds can trigger powerful allergic reactions. Now picture a version of that, multiplied by alien evolution. The spores on Kepler-186f could release neurotoxins that attack your nervous system in minutes. You'd feel dizzy, confused, then paralyzed. Your muscles would stop working. You'd suffocate while still awake. It's a cruel and quiet way to go, and the worst part is, you wouldn't even see it coming. That's what makes this place so deceptive. From a distance it looks safe, but it's not. And as if that wasn't enough, this beautiful planet has another deadly secret. Acid rain. Not the kind we've dealt with on Earth from industrial pollution. We're talking about sulfuric acid falling from the sky. The type of rain that can burn through metal, melt rock, and dissolve skin. It's caused by volcanic activity releasing toxic gases into the atmosphere, including sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. These gases mix with the moisture in the air and form powerful acids that fall as rain. Here's a historical fact. Earth had similar rain billions of years ago, before life fully formed. So, in a way, Kepler-186f might be stuck in a younger, angrier phase of planetary evolution. A curious comparison, isn't it? The rain on this planet wouldn't just make you wet. It would destroy your equipment, corrode your ship, and eat through even advanced spacesuits. The idea of stepping outside during one of these showers is the stuff of nightmares. You wouldn't get soaked. You'd get dissolved. And now you're probably wondering, why would anyone even consider sending humans to a place like this? Here's where the mystery deepens. Kepler-186f keeps showing up in research papers and simulations as a top candidate for life outside Earth. Not because it's safe, but because it's almost Earth. That's what makes it such a tempting target. Scientists believe there may be entire alien ecosystems thriving there, adapted to its atmosphere, immune to the spores, resistant to the acid. And that's the kicker. It might be habitable. Just not for us. This is one of those interesting paradoxes that space exploration constantly reveals. We look for planets like Earth, but what we really find are worlds that punish human biology. And here's the biggest curiosity of all. It's possible that this planet is a paradise for the life forms that call it home. Now think about this. On Earth, we have mushrooms that communicate with each other underground, using a kind of chemical internet. Some even release spores that can control insect behavior. What if Kepler-186f has similar life, but on a bigger, more dangerous scale? What if the spores aren't just toxic by accident, but by design? That opens the door to something far more terrifying: intelligent plant life, or at least highly evolved ecosystems that know how to defend themselves. It's a chilling thought. You land expecting to explore, but instead, the planet treats you like a virus, a hostile intruder. And suddenly, it's not just survival of the fittest, it's survival of the most adapted. And on Kepler-186f, humans are anything but adapted. Let's not forget the rain. Volcanic activity here might be non-stop, with ash clouds covering the skies, turning daylight into a murky reddish haze. That ash could carry even more spores, spreading them across the planet. Some scientists believe the surface might be covered in moss-like growths or alien forests. Beautiful to look at, deadly to touch. A single cut on your hand mixed with the rain, and the acid could carry toxins straight into your bloodstream. It's the kind of danger you don't feel until it's already too late. And yet, despite all this, missions keep modeling Kepler-186f as a potential destination. That's the strange optimism of science. We dream of exploring new worlds, even when those worlds could kill us in less than a minute. It's a curiosity that's baked into human nature. The more dangerous something seems, the more we want to understand it. And there's more. Some theories suggest that if we ever did find life here, it wouldn't be in the open. It would be hidden underground, in thermal vents or beneath thick plant cover, shielded from the acid rain and the harmful atmosphere. That makes this planet even more mysterious. It could be full of hidden secrets, strange alien species, bizarre chemistry, maybe even evidence of past civilizations. What if something lived here before and was wiped out? Or what if the spores are the remains of something greater, a biological memory spread across the planet? That's the kind of mystery that makes scientists lose sleep, and explorers want to take the risk, because sometimes what kills you is also what teaches you the most. Kepler-186f teaches us an important lesson. Looks can be deceiving. Planet can have the right size, the right light, the right temperature, and still be completely incompatible with human life. It shows that habitability is more than just numbers on a chart. It's biology, chemistry, weather, and a whole list of invisible threats. It's a reminder that just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's safe. And here's a final curious fact. Some experts believe we'll eventually find microbial life on a planet like Kepler-186f before we find it anywhere else. Not in peaceful meadows, but in acid pools, toxic caves, or spores drifting through a deadly breeze. Life doesn't care about comfort, just wants to survive. Still, for all its beauty and danger, Kepler-186f isn't the most extreme place out there. There's another world, even closer to home, where survival isn't just about breathing the right air. It's about avoiding pure radiation, organ failure, and death in a matter of seconds. Now let's talk about Proxima Centauri b, a planet that, at first, sounds like one of the best candidates for a future human colony. Why? Because it's close. In fact, it's the closest exoplanet to Earth, orbiting the nearest star outside our solar system, just 4.2 light-years away. That's practically next door, in galactic terms. And it's even inside its star's habitable zone, meaning it could, in theory, support liquid water. Sounds promising, right? But here's the curious part. Being close doesn't mean being safe. Proxima Centauri b is a death trap disguised as an opportunity, and the main culprit isn't the ground or the gravity, it's radiation. This planet orbits a red dwarf star called Proxima Centauri, which, despite being small, is one of the most volatile stars we know of. It's like living next to a tiny sun that randomly throws nuclear tantrums, without warning, without mercy. Here's an interesting fact. Solar flares on Proxima Centauri can be 100 times more powerful than those from our sun. When these flares happen, they release intense bursts of high-energy radiation, enough to fry electronics, melt satellites, and destroy the delicate balance of any planet's atmosphere. On Earth, we're protected from our sun's tantrums by a strong magnetic field and a thick atmosphere. But Proxima Centauri b likely has neither. That means radiation doesn't just hit the surface, it slams into it, soaking everything in deadly particles. A single second of exposure would be enough to shut down your organs, scramble your DNA, and begin the process of total body failure. Your skin might not burn immediately, but your cells would start dying from the inside out. And worst of all, you wouldn't even see it happening. No heat, no flash, just quiet, invisible death. It's one of those curiosities of space. The most dangerous threats are often the ones you can't see or feel. And there's more. Because Proxima Centauri b is also tidally locked, one side of the planet always faces the star, and gets absolutely scorched, while the other side is frozen in permanent night. There's no day-night cycle here, no time to recover, no gentle balance. The day side is constantly battered by radiation and stellar wind, while the night side is colder than anything on Earth, a place where metal becomes brittle and even air molecules struggle to stay in motion. The twilight zone between these two extremes might sound like a potential safe space, but here's the mystery. How do you survive in a world where the air might be stripped away completely, and where magnetic fields don't block a single ray of cosmic destruction? Even the best spacesuit couldn't hold up. And without an atmosphere, that means vacuum exposure is also a threat. Your blood could start to boil. Your lungs would collapse. Your body would swell painfully. And all of this could happen just by stepping outside. Now imagine trying to build a base here. First problem. You need to bury it underground, far away from the radiation. That's not easy when the soil might be frozen solid or made of sharp, radioactive dust. Second, there's constant bombardment from micrometeorites and stellar particles, which could pierce thin structures or tear through shielding over time. Third, your equipment would age rapidly. Electronics exposed to this level of radiation would fail within days or even hours. On Earth, satellites have lifespans of years. On Proxima Centauri b, maybe minutes. A fun little historical fact. Astronauts on the moon spent only short periods outside the lander because the moon has no magnetic protection. Proxima Centauri b is like the moon, but with rage issues. And here's the twist. Despite all of this, scientists still dream about sending a probe there. Some are even working on LightSail spacecraft that could reach the system in a few decades. Because where there's danger, there's also fascination. And this planet is full of both. Let's also talk about the atmosphere, or the lack of it. Most researchers agree that any atmosphere this planet might have had has likely been stripped away by its star. That means no air to breathe, no protection from space, and no way to support farming, water cycles, or heat regulation. If you spilled a cup of water on the surface, it would either boil away instantly or freeze into a solid block, depending on where you stood. That kind of instability makes even temporary survival feel impossible. It's like being trapped between a furnace and a freezer, with no doors and no escape. One curious detail. Some models suggest that the planet might have pockets of atmosphere left, but only in low areas like deep valleys. Even then, the radiation would still reach you. It's like putting an umbrella on the beach during a hurricane. It doesn't really help. But why is this planet still on everyone's radar? That's the mystery. Despite all the known dangers, Proxima Centauri b remains one of the most studied exoplanets in the universe. Maybe it's because it's so close. Maybe it's because the idea of a second Earth, just a few light years away, is too tempting to ignore. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something we don't understand yet. Hidden factor. Protective mechanism. Secret. That's the beauty of space. It constantly shows us how little we really know. And for all we understand about radiation and stellar activity, there's always room for a surprise. What if life has found a way to adapt here? Not human life, but something strange, something alien, something built for extremes. That question keeps scientists coming back, despite all the warnings. Still, even with all the curiosity and all the interest, we have to admit, this planet doesn't want us there. It's not a welcoming world. It's not a peaceful home. It's a battlefield, and we're the intruders. To visit Proxima Centauri b without full protection is like walking into a war zone, unarmed and uninvited. One wrong step, and your body shuts down from the inside. And yet, there's something haunting about that. Something that draws us closer. Because even in places where no life should exist, nature sometimes finds a way. And if there's even a 1% chance that something has adapted to survive here, that's enough to keep us watching. But don't get too comfortable, because the next destination on our journey doesn't give you a second to wonder. It's not just radiation or pressure. The next planet burns from the inside out, where oceans are made of lava, and the sky glows with crushed diamonds. If you thought the last planets we talked about were extreme, wait until you meet 55 Cancri e, a world that literally redefines what it means to be hot. This planet is so close to its star that its surface is covered with rivers of lava, and temperatures soar above 2,400 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, that's hot enough to melt most metals on Earth, including steel and even some diamonds. Yes, diamonds, because 55 Cancri e is also one of the most fascinating places in the universe when it comes to geology. Scientists believe this planet's crust contains so much carbon that up to 1/3 of its mass could be made of diamond. Imagine walking on a planet where the ground beneath your feet might be shining with sparkling diamond crystals. But there's no time to admire the beauty, because the heat alone would fry any unprotected explorer instantly. The lava flows on 55 Cancri e aren't just a surface feature. They're part of a violent, constantly changing landscape. The planet's star exerts an enormous gravitational pull, which causes extreme volcanic activity. You'd find yourself in a world where volcanoes erupt regularly, spitting molten rock across the land and filling the sky with ash. This is not the kind of place where you'd go hiking for fun. And here's an interesting fact. Even though this planet is so different from Earth, the physics of its volcanic activity is surprisingly similar to what we see in our own solar system, just on a much larger, hotter scale. For example, Jupiter's moon Io is the most volcanically active body we know, and scientists use it to understand how extreme volcanic systems work. 55 Cancri e takes that to the next level. It's like Io on steroids. Now, if the lava rivers and volcanic storms weren't enough to keep you on your toes, consider the radiation. Like many planets orbiting close to their stars, 55 Cancri e gets bombarded with intense radiation and solar winds. Without a thick atmosphere to protect it, the planet's surface is exposed to relentless radiation that would quickly fry any life form or electronic equipment. It's a bit like standing in front of a furnace, except the furnace never turns off. The sky glows with a harsh orange-red light, casting eerie shadows on the molten landscape. It's beautiful and deadly at the same time, a cruel paradox of nature. Switching gears, let's talk about Helios 3844b, a close cousin in terms of harshness but very different in character. This planet doesn't have lava lakes or diamond crusts. Instead, it's a rocky world stripped of atmosphere, where the day side bakes under the stars' heat, and the night side freezes in darkness. No atmosphere means no weather, no clouds, and no protection from radiation. Imagine being stuck on a planet where you're exposed to space itself, the vacuum, the solar radiation, and the temperature swings are extreme. On the day side, the surface temperature can reach over 1000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt many metals. On the night side, it drops to hundreds of degrees below freezing. It's a terrifying environment where survival without advanced technology is impossible. And there's an eerie loneliness to 3844b. Without atmosphere, sound doesn't travel, skies are black, and stars shine like never before. Radiation streams across the surface unabated, slowly damaging anything exposed to it. A human stepping out without protection would quickly suffer from radiation sickness, burns, and eventual organ failure. Even machines would degrade rapidly. The vacuum itself is lethal. Blood would boil, tissues swell, and consciousness fade within seconds. It's the kind of place that feels like the universe's cold shoulder. Here's a fascinating historical fact to add some perspective. Astronauts walking on the moon faced similar dangers. No atmosphere, extreme temperatures, and radiation exposure. That's why their suits and capsules were so heavily engineered. But the moon's environment is still milder compared to LHS 3844b, which doesn't even have a magnetic field to help deflect radiation. The difference is like going from a safe backyard bonfire to standing inside an active volcano. What ties 55 Cancri E and IS 3844b together is the brutal reality that some planets simply don't care about life as we know it. They exist in extremes, boiling, freezing, radiating, crushing, and challenge our ideas of habitability. But studying them is curious and important. They teach us about geology, atmospheres, or the lack of, and the limits of nature's creativity. They also remind us that the universe is much bigger and stranger than our cozy blue planet. And if you think these worlds sound unlivable, that's because they are. But the universe holds even more mysteries. Planets where the dangers are less obvious but just as deadly. Places where survival means understanding how the brain reacts to trauma, or how radiation mutates DNA. But that's a story for another time. Now that you've learned about some of the most dangerous planets in the universe, the question remains: what would make you want to explore these worlds despite all the risks? Is human curiosity worth the price of survival? And what if I told you that, even with all these mysteries and terrifying historical facts, the quest for the unknown never stops? Drop a comment telling us which planet surprised you the most, or if you think there's an even more hostile place out there. Want to keep discovering amazing curiosities about the cosmos? Then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. After all, knowledge is protection, and the best defense against the universe's mysteries.